So, I'm not going to start right at the beginning. I'm going to start where it all turned around for me, or that life-changing pivotal moment or experience. So, backtracking a little bit, I grew up doing a lot of sports, specifically competitive water skiing, which for a developing and growing body can be really harsh. Lots of injuries, lots of impact. Your body's traveling at high speeds. When you hit that water, it's like hitting concrete, multiple concussions. But there was one distinct injury, and that was my back. I remember jumping. So you go over this ramp. And when I landed, I think that impact was just too much. I was about 11 years old. And from there, I started having really bad back pain. And the doctors just said, it's growing pains because of my age and it's nothing, it's muscular. Then a couple of years later, I went for x-rays because it just didn't get better. And they saw that I had, in fact, cracked a vertebra. And because of that weakness, it had slipped out of place. So it had slipped towards my stomach. So not out to the sides or the back, but to the front. And again, because of my age, the doctors just suggested that as I grow, it'll kind of find its way back in line and it's nothing to worry about and it's all kind of grown back together. But from age 11, I had back pain and it never went away. And obviously, I continued water skiing till I was about 18. Then, after my studies and all of that, and working as an interior architect for a little bit, I'd actually specialized in project management. I decided, or it was decided for me, I had terrible burnout, adrenal dysfunction, depression, and I realized it was me not living on the right path. I was just not living my purpose. At this stage, I didn't know what my purpose was, but things were not aligning. So I decided to sail around the world for a living. I did some courses, I've got my captain's ticket, and even though I worked as part of cruise, um, I spent 3 years traveling around the world working on big sailboats, big motor yachts, specifically working on deck. It was definitely a career for me. I had planned to do my officer of the watch after doing my yacht master. I know this doesn't make sense to everyone. But basically, I worked outside, I worked on deck. It was very much a man's job, very much a physical job. And with that also came accidents and injuries, falling from one deck onto another, falling into big bolts and machinery, and always on my back. So, in between jobs or seasons, I would travel a lot, visit friends all over the world. That obviously entailed sitting on aeroplanes for hours, sitting on trains for hours, and my legs always fell asleep. And I just figured, okay, I've got a pinched nerve in my back. So I had come home for Christmas, and before going back to the Caribbean for a job, I decided, let me just have my back checked out at home because I didn't know what the medical facilities would be like in the Caribbean. And that's where it all just came crumbling down. So they saw on an MRI that I had multiple cracks in my vertebra. So that was the L5 vertebra, the disc between L4 and L5, and between L5 and S1. Those two discs were so damaged. Um, I had spinal stenosis, which means my spinal column had narrowed. And then I also had a lot of nerve damage. So looking at the scans, you would see my spine going down. And then there was just this white, like cloudy mess. And then my little coccyx at the bottom. So I had actually been walking around with a broken back for years. Um, I think what really also made it worse is when I was working on the super yachts, I we was based in Boston for a little while and we were kind of inspired to start running. So I started running, and I think that also just added to it deteriorating even quicker. So basically, my back was crumbling apart, and so was my life. Anyway, emergency surgery had to be scheduled. Flew down to South Africa with my mum, and I had this big surgery that I wasn't prepared for, that I didn't even have time to think about. And when I woke up from the surgery, I had to learn to walk again. Um, if you're not preparing yourself mentally for something like that, it's a lot. But I was very positive and, thinking that had now all been fixed. So I learned to walk again, did my rehab, worked really, really, really hard. Um, a few months after that, my mum was actually diagnosed with cancer. So that was incredibly overwhelming. It was just a really tough time. I ended up having severe reactions to pain medication, that made me very sick. I was in bed for months. I started getting really bad depression because I just felt so useless and I felt like such a burden. And I kind of didn't, I was never suicidal, but just thought to myself, what's the point? Why am I here if I can't even um, do much? So I decided that I also had to change careers. I wasn't allowed to sail anymore. So I went back to the basics and I realized that from when I was about 13 years old, I was obsessed with nutrition and health. And I used to cut out these health facts out of a magazine and do scrapbooking with all this like herbal stuff and alternative healing methods, the work. So it was always in me, obviously, also growing up. Um, as an athlete, doing a lot of sport, then having been so burnt out after my studies, where I was trying to heal this adrenal dysfunction from a natural perspective and in a holistic way. So all of that kind of led me to realize that nutrition was what I wanted to do. And it was my passion. And also at the same time, trying to heal my mom or help my mom heal through alternative methods, nutrition, using food as medicine. So I did some additional studying, and I was actually inspired by my rehab coach who mentioned to me, he was also a personal trainer, and he mentioned that a few clients could benefit from my knowledge, in the sense of fat loss, but I could still help them eat healthier and live healthier. And that's how I met my first three clients, and it kind of went from there. I had no business plan. I had no plans, actually, but I just went with it, and I founded Macht, which is my business. So Macht is a little bit of a play on words. I am German, and Macht means to make or to do, but it also means might or power. And my name starting with M, I went with double M, Macht. So it's just pronounced Macht, it's spelled with a double M. It just had a lot of meaning to me. And I also thought if people don't know how to pronounce something, they might think about it a little bit more and then it might get stuck. That was my thinking at the time. Anyway, so Macht was created and it just grew organically from there. And with that, I grew and I found my purpose. And it really, really helped me have reasons to get out of bed, show up in the world, show up for others. Everything I went through became a platform to share with others, to heal others, or to help others who had been on the same path or who had similar experiences. So it really became the most rewarding passion project as my business, as my brand. So I really count myself very lucky to have figured all of that out when I did, but I would never have figured it all out had I not had this life-changing surgery. And, for years people thought, what a tragic thing, what an awful thing to go through. But I'm so, so, so to this day incredibly grateful for all of it. I wouldn't change it for the world because it made me who I am today, and it's allowed me to help thousands of women and people in general. Um, so yes, that is Macht. A couple of years later, so just skipping ahead a little bit, in June 2022, my mum eventually passed from cancer after a very long, brave fight. And this again was obviously, such a life-changing um, thing to have happened. It was incredibly traumatic, not so much the death itself, that was very peaceful, but all the years before that, the living with constant fear, anxiety. I was always so scared that when my mom was going to die, and I tried to control everything so that wouldn't happen, and it still happened. There's nothing I could do about it. Um, so there was a lot of trauma, a lot of PTSD that came with all of that, but that I'd had a couple of sort of spiritual awakenings, if we can call it that, um, earlier on in life. Also, again, when I was fighting that adrenal fatigue, the burnout, traveling around the world, soul searching, etc. But when my mom passed is when I really connected to that spiritual side because it helped me just cope, it helped me understand, it helped give me something to hold on to. And through that, I decided to finally do my Reiki master training, something I'd always wanted to do because my granny had actually done a Reiki course after she had experienced a stroke in her early 50s. Um, so I did my Reiki master training. From that, I just continued working on my spirituality, developing my gifts, discovering what I was capable of, discovering what is out there, all the possibilities, all the things we can't really see or fathom or understand. And it helped me heal so much. At the same time, 2 months after my mom passed away, I actually fell pregnant for the first time. And that's the start of a whole nother story, which I will share in another video, my conception journey. But basically, fast forwarding 2.5 years, here we are today recording this video, and I'm finally creating the space to be able to share more deeply, to be able to share more vulnerability, to be able to talk for longer than 3 minutes on Reels, and just to connect with people who might find comfort in knowing that it gets better, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that sometimes bad things happen for the best reasons, that not everything is a death sentence, and to just spread hope. So thank you for being here. I love connection. So please connect, connect, connect. Reach out to me, engage with me. I am usually most active on my Instagram channel. Check out my website. There is a link to contact me via email. So please reach out, ask questions. I've also created this channel to help, to guide, because that's what I do. So I'm going to do a couple of episodes here and there, just answering questions. So if you have any questions, send those through to me. But again, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I hope to continue sharing the magic with you.